Every night, as you lie in bed replaying the day's events, do you ever wonder why your brightest intentions seem to crumble into dust? Why the goals that felt so clear in the morning light somehow slip through your fingers like sand? The answer lies not in your circumstances, not in your luck, but in the most intimate betrayal of all, the systematic sabotage orchestrated by your own mind. If you've found yourself here today, searching for answers, then you've likely felt the sting of this internal rebellion. You've experienced the frustration of watching yourself make the same destructive choices, fall into the same patterns, and wonder why success feels so elusive despite your genuine efforts. Before we dive deeper into this exploration, I want you to consider subscribing to this journey of self-discovery, because understanding the mind's sabotage is just the beginning of reclaiming your power. The human brain, that magnificent 3-pound universe between your ears, processes approximately 11 million bits of information every second. Yet remarkably, your conscious mind can only handle about 40 bits of that torrent. This means that 99.9% of your mental processing happens below the threshold of awareness, in the shadowy realms where your deepest fears and most primitive instincts hold court. It's in this hidden territory that the seeds of self-sabotage take root and flourish. Carl Jung once observed that, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This isn't merely poetic wisdom, it's a fundamental truth about human psychology that modern neuroscience has validated time and again. The unconscious mind, shaped by evolutionary pressures and personal history, often operates with an agenda that directly conflicts with your conscious desires. Think about this for a moment. Your brain evolved not to make you happy, successful, or fulfilled. It evolved to keep you alive. And in the ancient calculus of survival, staying safe often meant staying small, avoiding risks, and maintaining the status quo. These same neural pathways that once protected our ancestors from predators now protect us from the perceived dangers of growth, change, and achievement. The tragedy is that we rarely recognize when our minds are working against us. We attribute our failures to external circumstances, bad luck, or personal inadequacy, never suspecting that we might be the architects of our own limitations. We live in a state of psychological sleepwalking, convinced that we're pursuing our goals while unconsciously ensuring we never reach them. This self-sabotage isn't random or chaotic. It follows predictable patterns, leaves identifiable traces, and operates according to its own twisted logic. Once you understand these patterns, once you can recognize the signs, you gain the power to interrupt the cycle and reclaim control over your destiny. The ancient Greeks understood something profound about human nature that we've largely forgotten in our modern rush toward optimization and achievement. They recognized that the greatest battles aren't fought on external battlefields, but within the corridors of our own minds. The philosopher Heraclitus taught that the way up and down are one and the same, meaning that our greatest strengths and our most destructive tendencies often spring from the same source. Today, we're going to illuminate 5 specific ways your mind might be sabotaging you, even as you remain completely unaware of its machinations. These aren't abstract theories or philosophical musings. They're concrete, identifiable patterns that you can spot in your own life once you know what to look for. More importantly, recognizing these patterns is the first step toward breaking free from them. The first sign that your mind is sabotaging you reveals itself in what I call the comfort zone conspiracy. This isn't simply about avoiding challenges or preferring familiar situations. It's far more insidious than that. Your mind has become a master at disguising opportunities as threats, reframing growth as danger, and convincing you that staying where you are is not just preferable, but necessary for your survival. Research from Harvard Business School reveals that our brains are wired with what psychologists call a negativity bias. This evolutionary remnant causes us to give negative experiences roughly 5 times more psychological weight than positive ones. In practical terms, this means your mind is constantly scanning for reasons why that new opportunity might fail, why that relationship might hurt you, or why that creative project might expose you to ridicule. But here's where the sabotage becomes truly sophisticated. Your mind doesn't present these fears as irrational anxieties. Instead, it dresses them up as rational analysis, careful planning, or prudent caution. You tell yourself you're being realistic when you talk yourself out of applying for that dream job. You convince yourself you're being responsible when you avoid starting that business you've dreamed about for years. The psychologist Abraham Maslow identified this phenomenon when he wrote, "We fear our highest possibilities as well as our lowest ones." We are generally afraid to become that which we can glimpse in our most perfect moments. This fear of our own potential creates what I call the success ceiling, an invisible barrier that your mind constructs to keep you safely below your actual capabilities. The second sign manifests as what I term the fear masquerade. Here, your mind becomes exceptionally creative at disguising fear as other emotions. Procrastination masquerades as perfectionism. Avoidance presents itself as careful consideration. Self-doubt wears the mask of humility. Laziness disguises itself as work-life balance. Dr. Stephen Pressfield, in his extensive research on creative resistance, identified that the closer you get to pursuing something that truly matters to you, the stronger the internal resistance becomes. This isn't coincidence. It's your mind's last-ditch effort to keep you in familiar territory. The very intensity of your resistance often indicates the importance of what you're avoiding. Consider the neuroscience behind this phenomenon. When you contemplate significant change or challenge, your brain's amygdala, the ancient alarm system responsible for fight or flight responses, begins firing as if you were facing a physical threat. Your body floods with stress hormones, your heart rate increases, and your mind begins generating every possible reason why this change is dangerous. But here's the crucial insight. Your amygdala can't distinguish between the fear of public speaking and the fear of being eaten by a predator. To your primitive brain, both represent existential threats. This means that every time you consider stepping outside your comfort zone, you're literally battling millions of years of evolutionary programming designed to keep you safe by keeping you small. The most pernicious aspect of the fear masquerade is how it co-opts your intelligence and creativity. The same mental faculties that could propel you toward success become weapons of self-limitation. You become brilliant at finding reasons not to act, creative in generating obstacles, and articulate in explaining why now isn't the right time. This is why so many intelligent, capable people remain trapped in situations far beneath their potential. It's not lack of ability or opportunity that holds them back. It's their own sophisticated system of internal resistance that has learned to speak in the language of reason and prudence. The third sign emerges in what I call analysis paralysis disguised as thoroughness. Your mind convinces you that you need more information, more preparation, more certainty before you can act. But no amount of analysis ever feels sufficient, because the real goal isn't to gather information, it's to delay action indefinitely. Have you noticed how some decisions seem to require endless research while others happen instantly? The pattern isn't random. The decisions that threaten your comfort zone get subjected to increasingly impossible standards of certainty, while the decisions that maintain the status quo happen automatically. This isn't coincidence. It's sabotage wearing the mask of diligence. The fourth sign your mind is sabotaging you manifests through what appears to be a virtue but functions as a prison: perfectionism. This isn't the healthy pursuit of excellence. It's the impossible demand for flawlessness that ensures you never begin, never finish, or never share your work with the world. Perfectionism is perhaps the most sophisticated form of self-sabotage because it masquerades as high standards. Your mind convinces you that anything less than perfect isn't worth attempting, that partial progress is somehow shameful, that being good at something isn't enough. You must be the best, or you shouldn't bother at all. Dr. Brené Brown's research reveals that perfectionism is not about healthy achievement and growth. It's a defensive move, a way to avoid vulnerability, judgment, and blame. When you demand perfection from yourself, you create an impossible standard that guarantees failure, then use that failure as evidence that you shouldn't have tried in the first place. The neurological basis for perfectionist sabotage lies in how our brains process reward and punishment. Neuroscientist Dr. Robert Sapolsky's research shows that intermittent reinforcement, occasional rewards mixed with frequent disappointments, creates the strongest behavioral patterns. Perfectionism ensures that you experience mostly disappointment with rare moments of satisfaction, creating a psychological environment where giving up feels more rewarding than continuing. But the perfectionism trap runs even deeper than fear of failure. It's actually a fear of success in disguise. If you never complete anything to a standard that satisfies others, you never have to face the terror of being seen, evaluated, or held to higher expectations. Perfectionism becomes an elaborate hiding place, a way to stay busy without ever truly being vulnerable. Consider how this plays out in real life. You spend months perfecting a business plan that never gets implemented. You rewrite the first chapter of your book dozens of times without ever moving to chapter 2. You research fitness routines endlessly without ever actually exercising consistently. The activity provides the illusion of progress while ensuring you never reach a point where you might succeed or fail publicly. The fifth and perhaps most insidious sign is what I call success allergies. The unconscious ways your mind creates problems whenever you begin to make genuine progress. This phenomenon is so counterintuitive that most people miss it entirely, yet it's one of the most powerful forms of self-sabotage. Success allergies manifest in various ways. You get sick right before important meetings. You have relationship conflicts during career breakthroughs. You make financial mistakes just as your income increases. Or you engage in self-destructive behaviors precisely when things are going well. To outside observers, these appear to be coincidences or bad luck. But they're actually your mind's systematic attempt to return you to a familiar level of struggle and limitation. Psychologists call this phenomenon upper limit problems, the unconscious belief that you can only handle so much success, happiness, or fulfillment before something bad must happen to restore balance. This belief system often forms in childhood when we learn that standing out, succeeding, or being happy can be dangerous in various ways. The neurological explanation lies in your brain's prediction systems. Your mind constantly generates predictions about the future based on past experience. If your past experience includes messages that success is dangerous, that happiness doesn't last, or that you don't deserve good things, your brain will work to make those predictions come true. This is why lottery winners often end up broke, why people sabotage relationships just as they become serious, and why entrepreneurs often create crises in their businesses just as they begin to thrive. It's not character weakness or moral failing. It's a sophisticated psychological system trying to keep you within the boundaries of what feels safe and familiar. The most tragic aspect of success allergies is that they often strike hardest when you're closest to breakthrough. Just when you're about to transcend your limitations, just when you're poised for genuine transformation, your mind pulls out all the stops to drag you back to familiar territory. Understanding this pattern is crucial because it allows you to recognize these moments as signs of impending success rather than reasons to give up. Now that we've illuminated these 5 patterns of mental sabotage, the question becomes, how do we break free? How do we transform from unconscious victims of our own minds into conscious architects of our destiny? The path forward isn't about eliminating these patterns entirely. They're too deeply wired into our psychological architecture for that. Instead, it's about developing what I call mental sovereignty, the ability to recognize these patterns as they arise and choose a different response. The first strategy involves what psychologists call metacognition, thinking about thinking. You must develop the habit of observing your own mental processes as if you were a neutral scientist studying a fascinating specimen. When you feel resistance to action, ask yourself, what is my mind trying to protect me from right now? When you find yourself endlessly analyzing a decision, pause and ask, am I seeking information or avoiding action? This observer consciousness doesn't eliminate the sabotage patterns, but it creates space between you and them. Instead of being controlled by unconscious impulses, you become aware of them. This awareness alone begins to diminish their power over you. The second strategy focuses on what I call graduated exposure, deliberately seeking small doses of the very things your mind tries to protect you from. If your mind sabotages you through perfectionism, practice sharing imperfect work. If it sabotages through comfort zone conspiracy, take small daily actions that push your boundaries. If it creates success allergies, practice receiving good things without immediately looking for problems. Research from cognitive behavioral therapy shows that our fears lose their power when we face them in manageable doses. Your mind has created elaborate stories about why certain actions are dangerous. The only way to update these stories is through new experience that contradicts the old programming. The third strategy involves reframing the narrative. Instead of seeing your mind as an enemy to be defeated, begin to understand it as an overprotective ally that needs new information. Thank your mind for trying to keep you safe, then provide it with evidence that growth and change can be safe too. This collaborative approach is far more effective than trying to force your way through resistance. Your unconscious mind responds better to curiosity than to force, to compassion than to criticism. When you catch yourself in self-sabotage, respond with gentle awareness rather than harsh judgment. Remember that these patterns developed to serve you once upon a time. They just haven't received the update that you're ready for something more. The fourth strategy is perhaps the most powerful: identity integration. Most self-sabotage stems from a fundamental disconnect between who you think you are and who you're trying to become. If your identity is built around struggle, scarcity, or limitation, success will feel foreign and threatening. The solution isn't to abandon your identity but to expand it gradually. Begin thinking of yourself not as someone who occasionally succeeds despite their limitations, but as someone who is learning to succeed because of their journey through limitation. This subtle shift transforms your struggles from evidence of inadequacy into preparation for mastery. The fifth and final strategy involves creating what I call accountability to your future self. Most self-sabotage happens because we're more afraid of disappointing others than we are of disappointing ourselves. But what if you could cultivate the same loyalty to your future self that you showed to important people in your present life? Spend time regularly visualizing who you could become if you stopped sabotaging yourself. Make this future self as real and important to you as your closest friend. Then, when you face moments of choice, ask not just, what do I want right now? But what would honor the person I'm becoming? Remember, the goal isn't to become a person who never experiences fear, doubt, or resistance. The goal is to become someone who experiences these things and chooses growth anyway. Your mind will continue to generate concerns, create obstacles, and suggest reasons to stay small. But you no longer have to be controlled by these suggestions. The ancient philosopher Marcus Aurelius understood this when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This isn't about positive thinking or willpower. It's about developing the profound skill of conscious choice in the face of unconscious programming. As we conclude this exploration together, I want you to understand that recognizing these patterns isn't a reason for self-judgment, it's a reason for celebration. Most people go their entire lives without ever realizing that their minds are working against them. The fact that you're here, learning these concepts, means you're already beginning to break free from unconscious limitation. If this journey of self-discovery resonates with you, if you're ready to continue exploring the fascinating landscape of human psychology and potential, subscribe to join our community of conscious growth. And remember, the very fact that your mind might resist implementing these insights is just another sign that they're important enough to pursue. Your mind has been sabotaging you, but now you know. And knowing, as they say, is half the battle. The other half? That's the beautiful, challenging, transformative work of choosing growth over comfort, truth over convenience, and possibility over protection. The choice, as always, is yours.